All right, y'all. Say good morning. So we are continuing Emir Hashem in Os Nun Zayin. So we started this Os last week a little bit, and Emir Hashem, let's just pick up quick review from the beginning. So HaTzaddik introduced us to this concept, this incredible concept regarding the power of busha, the power of embarrassment, specifically the embarrassment that one suffers from one's aver. So let's actually pick up just from the beginning of the Os, just for a moment, because this way, again, we'll be able to get a bit more context. We only spent one day on this so far. So the Rebbe, if you look at the beginning from the Be'uria Chasidos on page Kuf Lamed Zayin. So the Rebbe writes, Hayisurim hanitzrachim la'adam einam rak b'ma she'ira imo b'poel. So both we're used to speaking about the concept of Yisurim, the concept of suffering. Right? So generally, again, we associate this idea, person commits averos, every avera brings with it an onesh, always brings with it a punishment. Again, whether that's a punishment in this world, a punishment in the next world, every action has a reaction, every action has a repercussion, and therefore by definition, every avera has an onesh. So says Reb Tzaddik, when we speak about Yisurim suffering, we often think in terms of like physical suffering. He says, however, just reading this quickly because we read this already. Page Kof Lamed Ches. Nechshavim heim mamish kilu saval asisure gehenom hanitzrachim lo kedei lehizdachek ulehisnakos al osa avera shemischarit al sha'asa v'shav b'tshuva shalema. So the Rebbe now points out something additional, and he explains that when a person goes ahead and suffers agmas nefesh. Now right now he's using the term agmas nefesh. Agmas nefesh literally means inner turmoil. A person suffers inner turmoil. So when a person suffers that feeling of inner turmoil as a result of their misdeeds, the Rebbe says that is also a form of Yisurim. That is also a form of suffering. But not only is it a form of suffering, that agmas nefesh that a person experiences as a result of his avera is also a form of tshuva, is also a form of repentance. V'lachin, we'll explain what that means. We'll explain how that works in just a moment. V'lachin, amru chazal b'sof parakama de meseches brachas al kol ha'oseh dvar avera de'hamisbayish ba mochelin lo al kol avonosav. We both said this is incredibly profound. The Gemara Maseches Brachos explains that when a person is embarrassed as a result of an avera that he has performed, that embarrassment seems to be the cause for his mechila, for his forgiveness. That when, I mentioned before, what the Rebbe just did was just kind of interchanged terms, right? In the beginning, he was speaking about the concept of agmas nefesh, inner turmoil. And now the Rebbe replaced that with the word busha, embarrassment. When a person suffers embarrassment as a result of his averos, so again, I was quoting the Gemara Maseches Brachos, mochel and lo akol avonosav. A person is forgiven for all of his averos. The power of busha, the power of embarrassment to allow for atonement for one's sins. V'atam lekach. Now we'll say, what's the logic for this? What's the reason for this? He says, Ki kvar saval onesh gehenom be'etzem habusha sheyesh lo machmas asiyas ha'averahi. Because through the embarrassment, it's ki'ilu that a person has already suffered in Gehenna. Isn't this incredible? That the power of embarrassment is such, the intensity of embarrassment is such, that it's ki'ilu I was already in Gehenna. That's the nature of busha. And the rest of anyone who's ever suffered embarrassment, real embarrassment, knows that, yes, absolutely, the pain of embarrassment. None of us know the pain of Gehenna, but we know that certainly the pain of embarrassment could be quite intense and overwhelming. So, Moshe, let's talk about this for just a moment, because this idea of, the Rebbe is explaining over here, is that busha has this twofold aspect to it. Number one, busha itself is a chelik of tshuva, right? When the Gemara speaks about busha, the Gemara says that a person who doesn't have avera and then is embarrassed by that avera, mochel lo, is forgiven. So somehow the busha itself, the embarrassment itself, is the vehicle for tshuva. And then the Rebbe says that busha itself is so intense that busha almost counts as Gehenna. Now the truth is those concepts are interrelated. according to Reb Tzaddik, why is it that Busha has the ability to atone? Because Busha itself is the Gehenna. Gehenna, I want to point out something very interesting. The difference between the Judaic concept of Gehenna and, let's say, the Christian concept of hell are dramatically different. Right? Gehenna is a rehabilitative process. The reason the neshama goes to Gehenna is that ultimately, again, this way, one day, at some point in time, I'll be able to go to Gan Eden. That's the goal. Some neshamas could go right to Gan Eden. Others neshamas need to go through the purification process, the rehabilitative process of Gehenna. But Gehenna is not punitive. Gehenna is rehabilitative. The Christian concept of hell could be a shtickle punitive. That's fun. So the idea over here is that somehow the busha is Gehenna is rehabilitative, and therefore by definition that affects tshuva. So we're going to kind of branch this out into two pieces. So let's speak about for a moment, or at least for a few moments today, and then Emir Hashem into tomorrow, the power of busha. If you take a look in footnote Kuf Mem Vav, a very, very profound piece over here that we're going to see. Interesting from the Shita Mikubetzes. First in the footnote, it goes to Shita Mikubetzes on Maseches Brachos, and then we're going to see a piece from the Mesilas Yesharim, incredibly profound. So footnote Kuf Mem Vav on the bottom, page Kuf Lamed Ches if you're following along, and footnote Kuf Mem Vav. Also, by the way, I would say also we're going to be in Reb Tzaddik for a little while. It's kedai. It's a good investment for your library. We're using the Ozva Hadar version of Tzidkas. HaTzaddik, I'll send you the version. It's a beautiful set of svarim to own. So, but of course I'll keep sending you the PDFs. But the footnote says, Rab Shita Mikubetzes, Kala Osa Davar Umisbayish Bo, Mochla Kalavonosav. Shemisbayish Bohen, Shabusha Olala Tshuva. So we'll say, so here, the Shita Mikubetzes expounds on the Gemara and says that whoever goes ahead and does something and is embarrassed by it, he ultimately again is forgiven for all of his sins. Shamisbayish Bohen, here he says it explicitly, because the busha ola lo l'tshuva. Busha counts as tshuva. When you're embarrassed about the chait, that embarrassment in and of itself is the tshuva. So what says, what's the pshat? Ubemeiri shabusha sha'adam mispayish hamashachata hu yisod hacharata v'acharata hu yisod hatshuva. This is incredible because Rav Osai, now it quotes the Meiri. This is interesting. And again, we're in a Seif of Chasidus, recording the Shita Mikubetzes, recording the Meiri. So you're going to see this is going to, now we're going to quote Siyas Yesharim. So right, so the Shita Mikubetzes says that what's the power of Busha? The power of Busha, as we said before, is the Tshuva. Says the Meiri, why is Busha Tshuva? Why is embarrassment over the Chait? Why is that the Tshuva? So the Meiri says, because the Busha is the equivalent of charata, is the equivalent of remorse. And charata, the charata posits the Meiri, is the yesod, is the basis, is the foundation stone of tshuva. They're both saying this interesting idea. So first of all, let's understand the Meiri, then we're going to have to back it out a little bit, then we're going to have to stop. But just interestingly enough, the Meiri positing this idea that charata, remorse, is the yesod of tshuva, which is a fascinating idea as well, which makes sense. We'll say if a person is not remorseful, then what? Then the truth is, how do you know if you really recognize that you didn't have it? So let's be honest. Sometimes I commit an avera, and the truth is there are two reactions I have. That was incredible. It was geshmak. It was such a great avera. I'm not going to do it again because it's aser. Do I regret it? No, I don't regret it because it was very enjoyable. I know I can't do it again, but at the end of the day, so we'll say what we call more like intellectual tshuva. It's intellectual, and you see this a lot of times. I will say a lot of times when people make profound changes in their life. So the way they react to their past is. It's hard for me to say that I regret it. That was who I was. So there's not a charata that's there. There's almost like an intellectual recognition. I can't live like that. I can't do that anymore. But there's not necessarily a sense of remorse. There's not a charata. The Meiri says that the true litmus test of tshuva is charata. Because if I'm remorseful about something, if I regret something, regret is such a powerful emotion. What regret says is, if I could turn back the hands of time, I wouldn't do this. Because I recognize that this action so fundamentally undermined who I am, what I want to be, that I would have never done this before. I would have never done this. If I could go back, if I could take it back, I would. That's charata, to have remorse that I ever did this to begin with. And says Meiri, that's the sort of tshuva. How do you know if you've had charata? So at least the Meiri posits, busha, embarrassment. If I'm embarrassed about something, that shows that I regret it. And if I regret it, that shows ultimately that if I could take it back, I would. And if I could take it back, I would. That's true tshuva. So we'll have to stop over here for today. We're going to pick up, there's one more piece that we're going to see, actually two more pieces, in the Nesivas Olam of the Maharal, and then of the Mesilas Yesharim in Eretz Hashem. We'll go ahead and we'll go through these two pieces, and then we'll back into the Tzaddik's idea, the power of Busha as well.